This is Minutia Men with Rick and Dave.
You know, I've never seen you this frazzled.
I'm a little frazzled.
What's going on?
So, internet went down, right? And
just you, not the world, right?
No, for me.
Okay.
But, you know, we're recording a show that requires some internet elements.
Yeah.
And I checked with the internet provider, and he said to reboot the modem.
Wasn't his name Steve?
No, it was not someone who was originally from this country. I don't know. Maybe they really are in this country. No judgment. I come from a long line of accents.
Yeah, but you also come from a long line of German, so judgment is actually...
Well, that's a good point. So, yes, we're going to be trying to do this on the phone, which is a whole new thing.
Okay, so... I mean, I can still stay in this chair.
You can stay in this chair, but I have to play some stuff off the phone. Hope that my Bluetooth works, because my Wi-Fi is out.
Okay. You know, you're almost as frazzled right now as the guy who runs... You ever go to the self-service, self-checkout at a grocery store?
Yeah.
And they got like the 12 or the 9 things, and there's that one guy that has to run... from aisle to aisle to press the button, you know how it always doesn't work, right?
Yeah,
you're that
me.
guy right now.
That's me. So I may be a little distracted. You know, I'm usually super in the moment.
Won't it be funny if this is going to be the greatest produced show you've ever done?
I'm anticipating it won't be, but we'll find out, because right now it is time for Minutia Men.
You nailed that.
The following is a Tony Lasano podcast, an Opie production on the Radio Misfits Podcast Network. This is Minutia Men with Rick and Dave.
Okay, so far so good.
Okay.
Now, are we sure that it's recording?
Yes, it is recording.
All right. Well, we better do this quick.
Yeah.
Right?
Come on, snappy, funny, right away.
Okay.
Go.
Well, I wanted you to play the Florida jingle, but you can't play the Florida jingle.
No, I can. I can play
you can do that one.
I can play the Florida jingle. Ready?
What's wrong with you, Florida?
Okay.
Fired Disney employee gets 3 years in prison for hacking and changing menus.
Wait, what?
Yeah, a Disney employee, his name is Michael Schur, a Florida resident, was sentenced last week in federal court and ordered to pay nearly $700,000 in restitution. With most of it going to Disney. He pled guilty in January to 1 count of computer fraud and 1 count of aggravated identity theft. And what this dude did, he worked as a menu production manager for Disney.
Okay.
And evidently things were probably not going well.
Yeah,
I don't know. And he was fired last June for misconduct, according to the original complaint. He had access to and also used secure internal servers for creating and publishing menus for all of Disney's restaurants, right?
Okay.
Well, Michael, I don't know if they, the coffee wasn't good in the in the employee lounge or something.
Goofy getting a little handsy.
Yeah, right, exactly. Right. But he got pissed. So what he did is he changed the menus and manipulated them and put them on the internet.
Okay.
And as you know,
this is going to be good.
As you know, I'm a journalist, right? And I spent an entire semester at the U of I in the journalism department. They're still talking about it, right? I did my research and I found some of the changes.
You mean University of Illinois, the Big Ten school with the excellent journalism department?
One of the best. I was there for 4 months, basically, until I went into even a much more prestigious curriculum. Advertising.
Yes, as did I.
All right. So this is what he changed. I got a few examples of what he changed. Okay. This is from the menu at the beer garden at Epcot. Okay. Homemade Spätzle.
Okay.
This is what he said. Like pasta, but more complicated, dense, and emotionally reserved. Just like your German uncle whose whereabouts during the war were unknown. Okay. Roasted potatoes. Because every German meal needs 3 starches and 0 smiles.
I love this guy.
Okay. This is maybe my favorite. Meat patties and red wine sauce.
Is his name David Stern?
Well, meat patties in red wine sauce. It's like Mickey Mouse tried to cook but had to stop every 5 minutes to sell you a $28 balloon. Here are some altered menus for our menu items for the Rainforest Cafe. You ever been to a Rainforest
Sure,
Cafe?
of course.
Yeah, of course. At Disney World, right? This is for the Awesome Appetizer Adventure, which is $25.99.
$25 appetizer.
This is what he wrote.
And he probably didn't change the prices either.
I know. Yeah, I'm sure the price. Yeah, those were already absurd enough. A deep fried fever dream of leftovers parading as a sampler comes with cheese sticks, the same ones you microwaved in college, and spinach dip served in a bowl as deep as your regret. For the spinach and artichoke dip, $14.49. For the price of a monthly Disney Plus subscription, enjoy some wilted spinach and cream cheese sludge.
Nice.
For the barbecue bacon cheeseburger for $29.70.
Okay.
You could get this exact burger at Denny's for half the price, but where's the annoying artificial thunderstorm?
Wow. I love it.
So this reminded me of something that did happen to us at Disney. First of all, the minute you get off the plane, that mouse's 4 fingers is in your pocket.
Yeah, and if this guy cost them $700,000, that's like like 8 Chivas and waters at the bar.
It's 13 pretzels that look like the ears and not a pretzel, right?
Exactly.
Daddy, it's not just a pretzel. It's just a fucking pretzel.
It's a pretzel.
But did you ever go to any of those character dinners?
No. No.
We would go to all of them. Right?
Oh, my God.
We did the Chef Mickey, which, by the way...
I had boys. They didn't care.
Well, we did Chef Mickey.
Yeah.
And there's 2... I've got 2 stories here. The first one is not going to put me in a particularly favorable light.
Okay.
It was late. It was like 8:30, 9 o'clock at night or whatever. And when you go to Disney World... You wake up at like 4:30 in the morning so you could squeeze every friggin' ounce of fun, right?
This sounds so horrible.
So we went to Chef Mickey, and the twins were like, I don't know, 5 or 4 or whatever, and they would not leave, right? And they would be running around, I couldn't corral them, right?
I remember. They were feral at that age.
And I dropped the F-bomb. I was, Aaron, get your fucking ass.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, like, and like 9 people around me, patrons, looked up and go, what motherless human has that to be?
This is supposed to be the happiest place on earth.
But my favorite story was we went to one of those character dinner. You never went to Cinderella's castle for the tea with the princesses or whatever, or lunch with the princesses.
Yeah.
I call them the hot princesses because
they're not real princesses. Spoiler alert, kids.
But at the beginning of the meal, they chose 2 random parents to be the king and queen to preside over the
now we're talking.
Okay,
right?
So they you and you, right? And they get the crowns and they get the big red robe.
Was it you?
No, it wasn't. This is what pisses me off because I'm going to tell you what I would have done.
Okay. All right.
So they get up there, the king and queen, and they read this proclamation.
People at Disney World right now taking notes, distributing your photograph around the park.
Oh no, I can't go back to Disney World. Uh-oh. What is that?
Nothing.
What was that? Was that something off your phone?
Yep. Yep. That's not good.
Okay.
All right.
Can we play? So we could call somebody. If somebody calls right now, we can put them on the air.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So they pick, like I said, these 2 parents, random parents. They go up in front. They read this proclamation welcoming the kingdom to the restaurant and whatever. Right. I was so bummed that I wasn't picked because you know what I would gone off script, Rick. Right. And
I'm sure you would have.
Welcome, my subjects. From now on, your entire vacation is comped by Disney World, right? I hereby comp you all of your vacations by order of the king.
And you would now be spending 3 years in prison.
Well, that's the thing part of the problem was, yes, 3 years seems to be kind of harsh.
A little harsh, yep.
Evidently, he put a lot of people at risk with peanut allergy. He changed, allergens on the menu. So people, no peanuts, and there'd be peanuts in it or whatever. Now, I don't know. The article didn't say if there was any issues. But...
shit. Nothing. Don't mind me. I'm totally listening to you.
Yeah, okay. Well, I just asked you a question.
Yeah, okay. Ask again.
No, I didn't ask you a question. So there you go. That's this guy, Michael Schur, Florida resident, 3 years in the clink for changing menus at Disney.
Okay, well, that is a terrible story because he should be lionized.
Yeah.
So I have a story for you that's a little more highbrow. This is a story about a nun, Dave. Sister Monica Claire. She's a nun. She's an author, a comedian, and a TikTok sensation.
Oh.
Imagine Maria von Trapp as a successful nun. And you've got a sense of the 59-year-old Mother Superior who launched Nonsense for the People in 2020 and now has a memoir called A Change of Habit coming out on August.
I understand that. Yeah.
Now, she started her TikTok as a way to raise awareness about progressive orders and things like that. But she has a background in comedy. She studied at New York University. She moved to Los Angeles. She took comedy classes at the Groundlings. She was in the troupe with Sherry O'Terry and Jennifer Coolidge. She's got some comedy chops. Yeah. And, you know, so she can't help herself. Sometimes it shows up on her TikTok channel. For instance, would you like to hear some of her nun comedy? Here we go.
A lot of clapping. All right, it's the lady portion of the show, and it's exciting. I wish I had a dick too. Do you like your penis, young man? You love it. Yeah, you do. You dirty fucking pervert. Yeah, you do. You guys are taught to be proud of yourselves sexually, right? Like your dad pulls you aside. How old? Like 12, 13, right? He's like, you're a man now. You're a man. I want you to get out there and I want you to beat off, young man. You're a man now. Nobody ever pulls their daughter aside. Like tiny circles, little lady. Tiny circles. Yeah. Yeah, make mommy proud. Get out there and
Not bad, huh?
Oh,
not bad.
What order is this?
Nun comedy. Obviously, just kidding. It's not the nun. It's of the female comedian named something or other. I can't find it. April Macy is her name.
Okay.
And she is considered the filthiest female comic. That's what I looked up. Filthiest female comic.
And she was number one on Google, huh?
No, and I want to apologize to the the Mother Superior, Sister Monica Claire, because she apparently
does knock jokes.
No,
right.
in fact she doesn't do comedy at all anymore. She does videos about meditation, living alone, and like her skincare routine and stuff like that. But she is a TikTok sensation. She is a nun. She's a former comedian, and she doesn't do dick jokes.
Hey, sorry about your Pope, man.
Yeah, thanks.
He was a good one, right?
He was. He was my favorite Pope ever.
Really? Mine was hilarious.
Oh, hilarious was
648 BC.
Yeah,
I think he was my favorite one.
I mean, you can't be called hilarious
without being funny.
Yeah,
he was doing knock jokes all the time at the Vatican. Hey, here's a review, and this is from Albion99 on Podchaser.
Oh, love him.
The hosts have the kind of chemistry you'd expect from two guys who have been friends long enough to insult each other's hairlines without flinching.
Oh,
they're funny in the way that your dad is funny after his second gin and tonic.
And we're not even drunk yet.
Expect lots of chuckles, a few groans, and an occasional, wait, is that real?
Yeah, and there's a good example right there.
Albion99. There you go.
Okay. Well, we have a regular feature that we do on this show, Dave, and I believe we call it Studio Walls.
Time now for Studio Walls.
And the words of the prophets were written on the studio walls. Rick and Dave.
So this is the part of the show where we dip back into the Rick and Dave archives. And, you know, sometimes we do get serious.
Yes.
It doesn't happen often. But this week was the anniversary of Adolf Hitler killing himself.
Mm-hmm. Allegedly.
Yeah. Well, I guess there's no official proof of that. But we didn't talk to Hitler, obviously.
Okay, right.
We talked to a man named Anthony Penrose.
Yeah, I remember.
Whose mother was Lee Miller, was a war correspondent. She was a model also before that. Like one of the most interesting lives you've ever heard of. In fact, they just made a movie about her starring Kate Winslet.
Yep.
But we talked to him before that movie came out. And we talked to him about a very famous photograph.
You know, we should have him back on to talk about the movie.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah. But we talked about a very famous photograph that was taken of his mother in Hitler's bathtub on the day that he died. Yeah. They somehow got in there. And he tells how the story of how this this very famous photograph came to be. And if you want to see the photograph, I posted it on our Twitter page and also on our Blue Sky. So take a look at the photograph there. And in the meantime, here is Anthony Penrose telling that story.
Lee was in the tub, Hitler and Eva Braun, way across Germany. At 4:45 that afternoon in Berlin, they had killed themselves. And so it has this kind of like symbolic end to that piece of dreadful tyranny. And it's like you're sort of washing away the effect of that in that moment. But actually, it started off with a much more mundane reason, is that Lee and her wartime buddy, David Sherman, he was a life photographer, they knew that the way to get the stories was to make friends with the signalers, the signal corps, because they knew everything. And so what they would do was to drop a crate of cognac at the feet of the chief signaler, and the chief signaler would say, there's not a lot going on, but when you get to Munich, this is an address that might interest you, and so on. And they'd say, oh, hi, fine, thanks, see you in a day or two, and they'd take off. Well, information like that, of course, they would never refer to it because they would never reveal their sources, but that's how they did it. That's how Sherman told me they did it. Wow. And they ended up with Hitler's address. And so when they arrived in Munich quite late on the evening of April the 30th, I think they must have been there just about dusk, and they went straight to this place. And they marched in and made friends with the people who were occupying it, who were, again, mostly signalers, because, you see, it was the telephone network there, and signalers really get off on telephones, or they did in those days. Anyway, they found that it was about the only house in Munich that still had coal, and therefore it had hot water. And this was too much, and Sherman said to me, we hadn't had our clothes off in 3 weeks. It was just more than we could handle, and hot water and soap and towels and a tub. And Lee leapt in first, and then they realized they had a scoop. And so they got a photograph of Hitler, a vanity portrait by his ghastly little pet photographer called Heinrich Hoffmann.
Right. Who became a billionaire? Didn't his family become like billionaires?
Absolutely. He made a fortune out of publishing pictures of Hitler. And the picture that they sat on the edge of the tub was the classic image of that time. It was made into a poster that was circulated all over Germany, and it was written on it, Ein Reich, ein Volk, ein Führer, große Deutschland. One people, one nation, one leader, great Germany. It just chills me to the marrow to hear the populist governments of the world using that at the moment, as a phrase. Anyway, she gets in the tub, and Sherman lines up the first shot. Now, if you look at the picture, she's sitting there and she's concealing her breasts. She's kind of crouching down because she knows that shot is going to be published, and it won't be published if she's showing too much.
Right.
So it's kind of like she, as the model, she knows straight away how to pose for the occasion. So she's pretending to flannel herself, with a face cloth, and she's sitting there. And Sherman gets off about 5 shots. Then they switch, and he gets in. Oh yeah, look, the key point in that picture is actually the boots on the mat.
Right.
Because the morning of that day, those boots had carried Lee around Dachau concentration camp.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, so think about it. That morning, she had witnessed the horror of Dachau. And remember, many of her friends were Jewish. Many of her friends were missing. When she got to Paris, she found there were huge numbers of people missing. So she felt very, very acutely the agony of that place, and it was very personal to her. And those boots that had carried her around Dachau are now grinding the filth and the degradation and the suffering of that place into Hitler's nice, clean bath mat. She's sitting there as a victor. She's not a guest in his house.
Yeah.
metaphorically grinding her heel into his face.
Yeah.
So Sherman gets in, and Lee pulls the camera back a little bit and tilts it up, and that takes in the shower head hanging above Sherman. Now, that morning, they had witnessed rooms that had been labeled shower baths, but they were, in fact, the gas chambers. And so here's this shower head hanging above her buddy, Sherman, who was, in fact, Jewish. Yeah. And it is just this chilling circularity. Yes, the shower head's harmless, but you could just see the double meaning there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. I just got like chills. It's one of the best interviews we've ever done.
I think it might be our very best.
Yeah. I mean, and I think I don't remember, we even said, wow, why don't they make a movie out of your mom's life?
Yeah, we did.
So we're kind of...
Yeah, I'm sure he didn't have that idea before we said it, but...
Oh, that's a great idea.
Oh, Charlie idea.
Tally ho!
But anyway, that is episode number 75 of Minutia Men Celebrity Interview. Worth a listen, because there's all sorts of stuff in there. I mean, his mother was friends with Pablo Picasso when he was a boy. And
didn't she get discovered by almost getting killed in a car accident or something?
I mean, there's just story after story. And he was talking about his book, which I believe was called I Once Bit Pablo Picasso's finger or whatever.
Yeah.
Because when he was a little boy, he
was hanging out.
He bit Pablo Picasso. All of us have stories like that.
Well, and didn't she also invent a photographic technique or something, like reverse something? Or
could be.
Yeah.
You have to listen.
Okay.
Episode number 75, Minutia Men Celebrity Interview.
Yeah. Ooh, well, let's just kind of let that...
And I just want to alert the listeners that I've made it through the phone portion of our program.
So now it's
and
just
I think
clear.
it's going to be all clear from here on in.
You know, I love a good prank phone call.
I
Right?
do, yes.
Did you hear what happened with the Atlanta Falcons and Deion Sanders' kid, Shador Sanders? Did you hear about that?
Yes, I did. Yes.
Well, for those of you who don't know, Shador Sanders was in the NFL draft. He's a quarterback.
He's a quarterback at the University of Colorado.
And he's Deion Sanders' son. And there's something why he didn't get picked earlier.
He was supposed to be like a top 5 pick.
Right. And he dropped to 145 or what, 44. So there is something going on.
There's charges of racism.
Yeah.
There's charges of, all sorts of stuff. What I heard was that he was blowing off teams
meetings and stuff
because he was so sure he was going to go at the top, and he was too good for everybody else. And they're like,
okay, so whatever. So the defensive coordinator from the Atlanta Falcons, by a man by the name of Jeff Ulbrich.
Yes.
Okay. He had his iPad out, and he was, he was working from home, right? And it was, they're going through the draft, and well, his wacky son, who was a college senior, I think, saw the open iPad and noticed that Shador Sanders' phone number was on the iPad.
Right.
So he jots down the phone number and he gets to his buddy. Let's call him Rick.
Yeah.
And he says, you know what would be funny? And, as Shador is just waiting to get picked.
Right.
I mean, he thought he was going to be a top 5, and then 10 goes down, and then they're getting into 39, 40 and whatever. So what they did is they called his phone number and they pretended to be the general manager from the New Orleans Saints.
Right.
Okay. And they told him that they were going to draft him next. Now, we did have audio, but of course with the... just Google. It's all over the place. So it's
a short call. It's like 45 seconds or something.
It says like, hey, man, I know you've been waiting. We're going to take you the next pick or whatever. And he's like, all right, cool, whatever. And then, the pick comes up and...
He doesn't get picked.
Right. The Browns pick Rick Kempfer from Louisville. And Shador doesn't go until the 144th pick.
Right.
Now, I'm a little torn on this one.
Are you?
I know it was mean.
It was definitely mean.
It was. I know it was mean and kind of childless.
Yeah.
Well, actually,
Childish.
everybody might be He might now be childless.
Yeah.
Childish, kind of funny.
It is kind of funny, but didn't he get fined $300,000 or something like that?
The Atlanta Falcons and the coach are fined $350,000.
Yeah, that's going to be an awkward dinner conversation.
Well, and the coach got the Jax Ulbrich is the kid who did it, but Jeff Ulbrich, who is the defensive coordinator, got fined $100,000.
Yeah,
I don't think defensive coordinators make
no.
I mean, $100,000.
That's like a year's salary.
Yeah, but. Do you remember the bit we did? We did a bit for something, maybe a radio show or something, where two teenage kids get the phone number of the emergency pardon phone number for an execution.
Yes.
And they pretend that they're the governor.
Crank call.
They crank call the guy that's on death row to say, hey, we're pardoning you.
Hey, Bruiser. Hey, it's the governor. No, it's not the governor.
Right.
They're wacky.
Yeah. So that
there was a more real example of this that happened with you.
Oh, with
at my house.
Yeah.
You found my celebrity phone book.
Yeah.
And it had phone numbers of, Chicago Bears and things like that in there.
Let's just say Mike Tomczak got a couple of phone calls.
Yeah. So, you're not casting aspersions here, I hope, because you didn't get fined $300,000 for it, but you should have been.
But do you remember what I did with those phone numbers? I didn't call and make fun of them or whatever. I would and I remember the Mike Tom's hey, Mike, Bill here. Don't forget we got a meeting tomorrow at 9. And then I would hang up, just hoping that Mike Tomczak would go, what's the meeting?
Okay. Whatever.
So it wasn't as bad as this.
No, I believe there was an angry call after a multiple interception night.
Didn't he throw 5 interceptions one day? Yeah. Okay. That's deserving of a Greg phone call.
All right. That's $300,000, please. Please give me $300,000. All right, I have a story for you. and every year this story comes out, and every year I get sucked in. No. And this is the year for 2024. Uber released a list of things that were forgotten in their Ubers this year. And, the top 10 list are usual things you've seen.
Phones and chargers.
Clothing, luggage, headphones, wallets,
artificial leg.
Yep, laptops, vapes, that sort of thing. But they also listed the top 10 most forgetful cities. Chicago, not among them. Huh? So Miami, by the way, number 1. LA, number 2. But here we go. So these are some of I have a list here of 20 unusual, unique items lost in Ubers this year. A frontal hair toupee.
Okay.
Just the frontal part.
Oh, you mean you can separate the two?
Look at Elon Musk next time you see him.
Yeah,
look at a picture of Elon Musk from 20 years ago.
So little monkey.
The frontal toupee is definite. Yeah. Hot sauce and a breathalyzer. I just like the combination of those two. Yeah. Hot sauce and a breathalyzer. 2 containers with spiders in them.
Okay.
A small rat skeleton prop. Let your mind go wild on that one. A candle that says "See you in court." Okay,
that's merchandising.
It is. Police grade handcuffs for a fun night.
Yeah.
A live pet turtle.
Okay.
Let's see here. A contraceptive Plan B from Costco.
Okay.
All right. That's could cause some problems of having forgotten that. How about a panic button?
What?
I don't even know what that is. A spear and a furry foxtail. A Taylor Swift autograph framed.
Oh.
That's
value.
That's
right?
value.
Yeah.
A fart sensor.
What do you need?
A sensor that tells if you've had farts. I don't know. Panty liner, undergarments, a street sign saying she's drunk, a paternity test, a WWE championship belt.
Like a real one?
A real one.
Really?
It shouldn't be too hard to track down.
Right. Although aren't there 9 different leagues or whatever?
Yeah, and are they real championship belts? And then there's a large sticker with a dancing cartoon cat that says Spanky Fest, which is my personal favorite.
Well, I hope that person has the Plan B.
And just a couple of just a little extra things here. The lost item that is the most popular color of lost items this year was red.
Oh.
And the most popular car keys that were left behind were Mini Coopers.
Oh.
So I don't know what the analysis is there, but
I know I've told the story before that I forgot my baby teeth on the blue line.
Right. That would have made the list.
That would have made
the list.
Right, so.
All right. Time for another feature.
Time now for Celebrity Potpourri with Rick and Dave.
You're doing fine.
I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah, right.
And this one's going to be real easy because I didn't get an email on this one. I got a verbal story this week from somebody I know very well who works at the DMV. I'm not going to say who it is.
I know
but,
who it is.
You know who it is. 2 celebrity sightings this week at the DMV.
Well, I always wonder. Well, I told you that I had traffic court with Mike Ditka.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then
I'm sure that we've done like 375 episodes or something. I'm sure it's in one of them.
Yeah. I had traffic court with Mike Ditka.
Well, this week at the DMV, a local one here in the Chicago area, 2 people came in. One was Bears wide receiver DJ Moore.
Okay.
And he apparently was given the red carpet treatment, taken to the front of the line, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
because
okay.
we love our Bears in Chicago.
Sure.
And then the other one was Billy Corgan.
Oh, Smashing Pumpkins.
Smashing Pumpkins guy. And he apparently caused quite a squeal amongst the ladies that were working there. And one person told this person that we know that the reason she took this job
Was
at
to
the
meet
DMV was to one day hopefully meet Billy Corgan.
No.
Yes.
Really?
Because she knew he lived in that area.
What is the area?
I'm not going to say.
Okay. All right.
And she did, in fact, then meet him.
So is she going to quit then now? After this?
Well, I don't know. But I just thought that was an interesting story. But it's not as interesting as what happened after that. This person that we know had to take someone out on a driving test.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Not a celebrity.
Okay.
Just an aside.
Yeah.
And they were ready to pull out onto the street, and they had to take a left turn.
Yeah.
And the woman said to him, "Are you sure you want me to take a left turn?" And he said, "Yes, please take a left turn." And instead of turning into the next lane over to go left, she turned right into oncoming traffic. And he said he saw his life flash before his eyes.
Yeah.
That's not good.
About a couple of months ago, actually, it could be a year ago. You know how at our age, time just flies, right?
Yeah.
I drove by the Elston and Florida, the Elston and Foster DMV in the city.
Yeah.
And I was driving down Elston, and I see a car in a light, like hit a light fixture or a light pole, and it looked like a teenage kid just crying in the front seat.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I mean, that's a rough job. Those people, they deserve extra credit for doing that
and
job.
from what I understand, back in the day in the 70s, they got quite a bit of extra cash, too.
That's how my grandfather used to do it. Like, I remember he came home one time, he was like 85, and we said to him, "All right, go take your driver's test," because we thought this is our chance to get the car keys away from him.
Yeah.
And he passed.
Yeah.
I'm like, how in the world you can't even see over the dashboard. He goes, "Yeah, well, what you must do is you give them a $20 bill in your handshake, and then they say pass you." And this is what he did every year. That would not work with the person that we were talking about earlier.
You know, this person is on the straight and narrow.
On the straight and narrow.
I was told doing it, but that was the scuttlebutt when when you're 16 and going to high school driver's ed. This is kind of not by the teachers. The teachers
Yeah, right. I hope not.
you have a pack of cigarettes on the dashboard, and you put a $20 bill.
Oh, that's a lot smoother than my
and then you
grandfather.
go, "Can I offer you a cigarette?" And then they'll see the $20 bill, and then they'll go, say, "No, thank you. Maybe later," or something like that. And then they owe it. Yeah.
Now, if you're taking a driver's test at, say, Disney World, imagine how much money you're going to need to have there. It's going to be, you have to have like $700,000 in your little cigarette bag.
Right. To enjoy the homemade spätzle, which is like pasta, but more complicated, dense, and emotionally reserved, like your grandfather or your German grandfather or your German uncle, whose whereabouts during the war are unknown.
So we've really come full circle.
Well,
I mean, we talked about the war.
We talked about the war. We talked about crank phone calls.
We did.
And crank and pranks and
yep.
Yeah, again.
And driver's tests. The same person that we were talking about failed a nun recently.
Really?
Yes. He said it felt terrible, but she absolutely should not be driving.
So this person that we're not naming, who
may or may not live in this house,
whose bedroom may only be 9 feet away from me. So he's kind of a hard.
Oh yeah.
Does he pass people that probably shouldn't pass because he doesn't want to do the paperwork or whatever?
No, he does not.
Is this kind of a power thing for him?
No, he just takes it very seriously.
Really?
He's German too, you know.
But he's Irish too.
Yeah, that's true.
So he's not hammered during the...
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
And he loves this job, right?
He does.
I think I would like that job too.
He said every day is interesting. Every day you meet somebody new and there's some interesting story that happens, and he likes people somehow, which it makes me wonder about his parentage.
His DNA.
We should probably get it checked. Don't you think?
Go to the Uber. And isn't there like a pregnancy test that may have been left?
There is a paternity test. Let's do it. All right. Well, we have people to thank.
We're not going to thank the internet provider that has made this show very difficult for you.
Right, and I'm going to name them. It's Astound. Thank you, RCN/Astound, for making my life difficult today.
And Steve or Charlie or whoever
that was. But we do need to thank Tony Lasano. Of Opie Shows is going to have to work the levels a little more this week because I'm, I am who I am. Also, let's thank Ed Silla with the Radio Misfits Podcast Network. You know what Ed did this week? He sent me a note about somebody that he converted into my soccer podcast, and he told me something to say that will offend his friend.
Okay.
So I'll be saying that next week's soccer podcast. Okay. So listen for that.
That is a new bit that we should do. Have people email us things to say to other listeners.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
You want to do that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is it time? Has the celebrity potpourri thing died out? You want to?
Yeah, you want to
switch it up?
Well, we have to give a little time. Let's do it like tariffs.
Okay.
Like, it takes time for the tariffs to really work. So
we may yank them at any time.
Did you know that China, on one of their tariffs, they made it 34%? Like, why are you doing 34% and not 30% or 35%? You know why they did 34%?
Why?
One for every felony of Donald Trump.
Oh, wow.
That was their little sarcastic, their little passive-aggressive dig.
Wow. Well, what times we're living in today? All right. Well, hopefully this internet thing gets cleared up because we do have to come back next week. Okay. And I believe we have to do another episode of
Minutia Men.
Yeah. What's it called again? Because I'm really I'm not 100% sure on the title.
That'd be Minutia Men.
Gotcha.
The proceeding was a presentation of the Radio Misfits Podcast Network. Find our other great shows on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and at RadioMisfits.com. Thank you.
This has been a presentation of Opie Productions.
Tony, can you shut up?